Hi everyone. Today we are going to be discussing your observation assignment. In this course, you are required to observe a science lesson and a social studies lesson. And when I'm talking about observations, I mean you are doing the observing of the lesson. When I say things like lesson implementation, that is you being observed while teaching the lesson because you're implementing the lesson. So today, this video is only about you observing a lesson. So the first lesson that you need to observe, or at least turn in to be graded, is your social studies lesson. What you'll need to do is two things before you do your observation. One, you need to download the observation template. This is where you are going to record everything about that observation. So this is what you will turn into me. Additionally, you also need to download the lesson plan implementation rubric. This is also called the NIET rubric. And this is what you are going to use to figure out the score of the instructor for the lesson that you are observing. So let's first talk about your observation template. This is what the observation template looks like. And my expectations for this are you're going to put your teacher's name, so whoever you're observing's name, the date, and then the topic or standard or objective that you are watching. So it would be Social Studies Standard 3.1 and then whatever that standard is. And then what I want you to do is during the lesson, I want you to capture evidence for each of the standards. And the way that I do this is I literally sit during that observation and I'm just writing everything down that the teacher is doing, and I'm listening for quotes that I can use for evidence. I might be walking around to look at student work because student work is something on this rubric. So you're probably wondering, Hollander, what do you mean by standards and objectives or motivating students? That's where the NIET rubric comes in. Remember how I told you all you need to download the NIET rubric for implementation? Here tells you what a teacher needs to do to make a 3 or be at expectation. So what I do when I observe you all or another teacher is I'm watching this teacher. And so for example, for standards and objective, for a teacher to earn a 3, the teacher must have most learning objectives and state content standards communicated. So what I'm going to write here is if this teacher or student earned a 3 is objective written on the board and on the presentation stated, students say the following I can statement. And then I would write that I can statement in. So that would be the evidence that I am collecting to show that this teacher has met, at least at a 3, the standards and objective. So if we continue on, for example, motivating students, the teacher sometimes organizes the content so it's personally meaningful and relevant to students, and the teacher develops learning experiences where inquiry, curiosity, and exploration are valued. And also the teacher sometimes reinforces or rewards effort. So in here, you could put things like teacher discusses a real world event or example of something that happens to students every day. Maybe the teacher's asking them, what makes a good citizen? What do you think a law is? That's a way for that teacher to be motivating students. Maybe the teacher rewards students who are doing a good job with, like school bucks or points or sticker on a sticker chart. That would be in motivating students, and you would type that in here. So what I'm expecting from you is that you are actively engaged in the lesson by watching it. Maybe you walk around with your students. That's going to be particularly important when you're looking at the student work and the assessment. So please walk around. I love asking students while they're doing the lesson, why are we doing this lesson? What are you learning about? Because that is going to be a huge indicator if the teacher is actually doing a good job. So what you will turn into me is you will turn in this form completely filled out. You should have evidence collected for all 19 parts of that NIET rubric. Now, what if because of COVID, your teacher cannot group students? You would put in the evidence captured, teacher could not group students due to COVID-19, because that's just the reality of what we're dealing with today. Then once you fill out the entire chart, and again, use your NIET rubric to see what type of evidence you need to be collecting, and your teacher could be scoring 1s and 2s, 3s and 4s, or a 5, depending on what they're doing and the evidence you collected. Then I want you to answer these reflection questions, and I would like you to answer them in full sentences, grammatically correct. Please check your spelling. And so I want you to discuss the areas that you feel the teacher did well in, areas that that teacher could improve on, and then, what's specific to the subject that you watch. So if it was a social studies lesson, how did the teacher make it inquiry-based? How did the teacher make it so that students had to think about the lesson? And then for you, what would you adopt and how would you improve this lesson? If you have any questions about this particular assignment, please email me. You have 2 observations due in this class. One is you observing a social studies lesson and you observing a science lesson. You do not need to observe your mentor teacher. You can observe any teacher in your school, or if you're not in residency, find a teacher that you can observe. Thank you guys so much, and I hope you have a wonderful experience in your observation.